Dear students, good evening. Welcome to Law Excellence. Let us do the editorial analysis for today, that is 16th November 2022. The first article, Undermining Federalism, Eroding States' Autonomy. You know what is federalism is. Indian federalism sometimes is described as cooperative federalism, competitive federalism, or federalism with unitary bias. Let us understand why it is called quasi-federalism and on other side federalism with unitary bias. Here, the center has got lot of money power, or revenues are high for center and responsibilities are high for the states. In this scenario, the states have to depend on the center for money, center has to depend on the states for getting developmental outcomes. So a kind of mutual interdependency is created by our constitutional forefathers with regard to federation is concerned. In this scenario, initially we had planning. So this planning and planning commission is criticized as an extra constitutional body and it is preferring straitjacket approach or one size fits all uniform approach across the states. So that's why the planning commission was removed, stating that it is not suitable for a diverse country such as India. And in this place, Niti Aayog has been brought in. And Niti Aayog is said to be the vehicle for cooperative federalism. All the chief ministers of the state, administrators of the union territories, central ministers, these are made as one single team called Team India towards the developmental effort of India. Niti Aayog was not given the powers which are been given to the planning commission. It cannot devolve funds to the states. It can only provide for the necessary strategy, necessary direction with regard to development is concerned. In this scenario, how the state's autonomy is eroding. First function, let us see Finance Commission. What the Finance Commission does, it's a constitutional body unlike Planning Commission. This Finance Commission has to recommend for devolution of the taxes, sharing of the tax revenues between the center and the states. Whatever the tax collected by the center, it falls under divisible pool. It means that the money has to be divided between the center and the states. On whose recommendation it has to be divided? On the recommendations of Finance Commission. This is called vertical division. After that, the divisible pool money has to be allocated between the states and a formula has to be developed how it has to be allocated between the states. This is called as horizontal division. There is vertical division, there is horizontal division. Regarding this, Finance Commission makes the recommendations. Along with that, various kinds of developmental grants will also be recommended by Finance Commission. Normally, whatever the recommendations made by the Finance Commission, it will be considered as an award by it and delegated or given to the states. The money will be given to the states. Center normally accepts all the recommendations of the Finance Commission. But today, if you observe the existing government, the 15th Finance Commission recommendations were not accepted in their fullness. Especially, certain grants are recommended related to nutrition, sector-specific and state-specific certain grants are recommended. These are not being implemented. Second is, let's talk about something called off-budget liabilities. You know there is an act called FRBM Act. The FRBM Act stands for Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. According to this, the debt, how much is the borrowing the state can maximum allow in relation to its deficit. How much it can borrow in relation to its deficit. The limits are being set by FRBM Act. Now, people are recommending for the amendment of this FRBM Act. Because of the COVID situation, global recession, economic slowdown in India, the governments have to borrow more to play an important role during these times. But FRBM limits are becoming a problem. And many of the states are innovatively using off-budget liabilities. What they do is they create a corporation. Let us take Kapu Corporation. On behalf of this corporation, they go to the bank and they borrow from the bank. And bank need guarantees, right? Who gives these guarantees? State government gives these guarantees. So these corporation borrowings these are kept outside the FRBM limits and these are not shown in the budget books. So those are called as off-budget liabilities. So it means many of the borrowings are not included in the budget document, which are not included, which are been borrowed through the route of corporations. These are called off-budget liabilities. So these off-budget liabilities are not within the FRBM limit now. But this year onwards, they are been brought under the FRBM limits. It means the borrowing capacity of the states is going to decrease and the states are expected to depend more on the center. On the other side, the center's off-budget liabilities are not brought under FRBM limits. Only the states' off-budget liabilities are brought under the FRBM limits. The states complain that the center is trying to squeeze them of their financial resources more and more. In this case, these FRBM limits, if they are being expanded, the states will be better placed to borrow. But FRBM amendment, it needs to come from a high-powered committee and this committee was not appointed. And second, we need to understand cess and surcharge. These are called tax on tax. It means if a tax is imposed over and above, certain extra tax can be collected on various specific products, on petroleum products, on the need for education. They can collect cess or surcharge. This money do not fall in the divisible pool. Let us take income tax, it falls in the divisible pool. On education, if cess is imposed over and above the income tax, it do not fall in the divisible pool. So this divisible pool of taxes, these are remaining constant. The center is not increasing them, but center is able to grab more money by raising the cess and surcharge, and it is keeping that money for itself and not sharing it with the states. So this is increasing year on year. If you observe in 2014, right, 2014-15, it is 13.5% and today it is 20%. Today it is 20%. So if you observe, the Finance Commission recommended for 41% to the states from the divisible pool of taxes. If you take cess and surcharge also as the revenue of the center, the net tax devolutions are only 29.6%. We need to understand this carefully. So out of 41%, actually realized by the states is only 29.6% because much of the revenue is shielded from divisible pool of taxes by imposing cess and surcharge. Next is central sponsored schemes. What are these centrally sponsored schemes? These are made by the center on the subjects in the state list. These are made by the center on subjects in state list. Let's take health. Let us take education. Now center will ask the states to contribute something towards it. Housing scheme. The state has to contribute something. In this case, the contribution part of the state is increasing year on year and there is no flexibility in these programs. That is another complaint. Third is, we have division of subjects between, functions between center and the states. In this case, farm laws, agriculture fall within the scope of state list. But center has enacted the farm laws. On many subjects given to the state, center is enacting the laws. This is another complaint of the states. So if you can make these 6 points, you can write a beautiful answer. For +1 advantage, remember this 29.6%, which is the net share of the states which they are getting instead of 41% due to raise of cess and surcharge. The cess and surcharge income has raised from 13.5% to 20% in these 5 years or 6 years. Remember that particular point. So these are related, these are important, these numbers are important to substantiate your answer. A call to action to avoid climate catastrophe. Now, COP27 is going on and many articles are coming up. If I have to ask what are the principles on which COP27 has to make its decisions, these principles are being given. The major reason for the rise of temperatures is fossil fuels. So, zero fossil fuels, move towards renewable energy. So it means the renewable energy has to become the norm of the future. No more fossil fuels. Second is, who has to be responsible for the accumulated gases in the atmosphere? In this case, the responsibility shall be on the people who have created these gases in the atmosphere. So the rich countries were responsible for the accumulation of the existing gases. So historically, what are the cumulative accumulations of each country shall become the basis for the responsibility or financial contribution they have to make to fight the climate change. So proportional contribution to the cumulative accumulations shall be the order of the day. Next point is, equity has to guide all of us. What is meant by equity over here? Let us take the carbon budget today available is very limited. Already the earth is heated by 1.1 degrees C. 2 degrees we are going to extinct from this living planet. So that's where we want to stop it at 1.5 degrees. So the the amount of carbon budget which is available is only to raise 0.4 degrees C. How this carbon budget has to be used? Based on the principle of equity, where the needs of developing countries, underdeveloped countries have to be prioritized. And second, what is the philosophy that has to take forward the dialogue in COP27? It is not the powerful people, powerful countries and their arguments. It is the power of argument rather than argument of the powerful people. So this is a very good statement which you can use for completing your answer, conclusion of your answer. So argument of power shall be replaced by power of the argument of the developing and underdeveloped countries, small island countries. This is the statement which you can use. Stay watchful. So you know that inflation in October has come down to 6.77%. Previous month it was around 7.4%. And most of the reduction is due to fall in food prices, especially vegetable oil prices. So that is a happy news for us. Everywhere cost of living crisis is huge, but in India it has come down. And in this scenario, still what are the problems we can foresee? Inflation comes from higher demand and then supply chain issues, supply side challenges. So demand is coming down, recession or other factors. But what is the reason why it is going to sustain? That is because of supply chain disruptions which are happening across the world due to various geopolitical issues. And the second thing is climate change. So incremental weather is decreasing our production. So we need to be watchful about this. So the inflation can be controlled in India if you are able to streamline the supply chain factors. Next, health as the focus of air pollution policy. Whenever we talk about the air pollution, we see it from the environmental concerns. But ultimately, what has to guide the air pollution policy? The health needs of the people. So that's where public health specialists shall be the part of air pollution policy design. As on today, either pollution control boards or the Commission for Air Quality Management does not include public health professionals. That's where the public health professionals shall be given voice at the higher table in designing the air pollution policy is necessary. That is the essence of this article. Next, third edition of No Money for Terror Forum to discuss crowdfunding of terrorism. Now, in security issues, this one point you need to remember. One is, what are the new sources of terror financing? What are the new sources of terror financing? One is cryptocurrency. That is the virtual currency which we are seeing everywhere. And terrorists also are resorting to crowdfunding from ideologically leaned people. And the third thing is drug and sales, increased sales through the dark web. These are all becoming the increased sources. Crowdfunding, crypto, dark web, these are the new sources of the terror funding. And how this conference will talk about the terror funding. So based on that, we can improve it further. What does the World Bank report says about India's cities? So these are text and context articles. So in e-paper, they are giving text and context articles. These are very critical for our +1 advantage. Now we have a topic called urbanization in our paper 1 syllabus. That's where one of the biggest challenge of the urban cities is infrastructure breakdown. The infrastructure includes social infrastructure, physical infrastructure. The social infrastructure, especially the urban poor, needs of the urban poor, creating a community across various classes in the urban areas. This all we call it as social infrastructure. Normally, we consider Singapore as a best example in creating the urban social infrastructure. So coming to physical infrastructure, which is critical for flow of traffic, connectivity, and ensuring the basic needs for everyone, providing for water, sanitation, well-connected roads, all these are critical for urban infrastructure. So the World Bank has created a report that is called Financing India's Urban Infrastructure Needs. In this, it has clearly stated $50 billion are required in the next 15 years. And in this, $55 billion are required for every year. So this number is critical. So what is the problem of Indian urban areas? Poor financing. And second is lack of capabilities to the urban governance bodies, which are municipal corporations. When we talk about poor financing, that point, we have to add this particular report of World Bank, which states that $850 billion are required over next 15 years. And next, how to source this finance? One is through debt, public-private partnership investments, or private partnership investments, these are the things. So in this context, the low service charges for municipal services. It means today a municipality is providing for drinking water. Hyderabad Metropolitan Water Supply and Sewage Board is providing drinking water and sewage services. The charges are very low. Low service cost will not help to service the debt which we are going to borrow to provide for the urban infrastructure. The service cost has to increase. Once the service cost increases, again, the poor will be worst affected. So how to protect the India's urban poor? That becomes an issue in this context. But what is the point we need to take for the exam? $850 billion is required in next 15 years for physical infrastructure in the urban areas in India. This is what we need to talk about. Is climate change affecting the global health? Again, this is also a report from Lancet. Lancet Countdown on Health and Climate Change. This is the report. Countdown on health and climate change. So any health related topic, climate change related topic, or nutrition food security related topic, we have to use this Lancet Countdown on Health and Climate Change. So any food security, it has 4 dimensions. What are the 4 dimensions we have? First one is called availability of food and access to food. And third is stability of availability. And fourth is situation or emergency needs, how you can make, how you can fulfill. So these 4 dimensions of food security are getting affected due to climate change. So availability is coming down. The reason is the seasons are getting shortened, crop yields are coming down. So the availability of the food is also decreasing. And in this context, a global coordinated action is required. So what we need to take for the exam? The Lancet's report on countdown to health and climate change has clearly stated that all the 4 factors or all the 4 components related to food security are getting affected due to climate change. That is the point which we need to take for the examination. Thank you very much. Have a great day.